Welcome, boys and girls. Appreciate you being here. My name's Andrew David. This is Blake Newbar's partner program, the High Performance Call, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern time. If you're watching on YouTube, it's because it's been recorded. They're typically uploaded about 8 hours after the live version. So if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. But I appreciate you guys being on. And we're going to get into it today. If you haven't yet, we did yesterday. We talked about success and defining success. So by show of hands or comments in there into the chat, guys, let me know how many of you guys took a moment to sit down and define success for yourselves. I asked you to write out definitions of success. Define that. Good. Sherman did. Carolyn did. Yes. Jess, awesome. Good. So some of you guys took advantage of it. Hopefully you did. I also asked you to, so you're writing out success. I asked you to write out some names of successful people. Talk to you about then writing out why you viewed them as successful. Good. Paula, let's see. Ernie, yeah, good. Mijano, good. A lot of you guys did. Fantastic. Excellent. Jocelyn, all right. So you guys took some time to think about success. Now, what I talked to you about is the difference between a recipe and an equation. And we talked about what's going to be necessary to take that next step for yourself and understand what success means and how. What I want to do today, I'm going to give you a number of different equations for success. Okay. I'm going to give you mine. But before I give you mine, I'm going to give you a couple of other examples that I found. And I want you guys to kind of decide which one works best for you. Okay. I will tell you that mine is a little bit more in depth. There's a few extra elements because I feel that each of them play a part in overall success. So I'm going to go through those, but I'm going to give you 3 different examples of a success equation. And after this call, if you guys find some value in what's here in these slides, it may be difficult to write all of this out. So write the key elements. And if you like it, then I will send you the slides afterwards. So you've got it. So you can look at what this equation looks like and you've got it available for you to use. And if you think that's going to be helpful, then let me know, drop in the comments and we can go over that. Okay. Is everybody ready for our equation? Let me share my screen and we'll dive into it. Krista, keep an eye on the waiting room for me as I go to share screen and we'll get things going. All right. So the equations, ladies and gentlemen, for success. Here we go. Let me kind of diminish this. I'll move that over there. All right. First one I want to talk to you about is from this book. It's called The Formula by Albert Laszlo Barabasi. And I know I'm probably saying that wrong, but the universal laws of success. So here is what Barabasi says. Okay, this is his equation. It's S, where S equals success, equals Q times R. Okay, this is his. So R equals the potential value of a given idea. So this idea that I've got, this project that I want to take on, this job that I want to have, this relationship that I'm stepping into, all of these things, that's the potential value, and then times Q. And Q is the person's ability to execute on the idea. So success equals the person's ability to, it equals the potential value of an idea times the ability of a person to execute on that. Okay. So we break that down just a little bit more. The Q, this Q factor, this is a combination of the person's innate talent and skill, right? Where we are with our skill and talent will affect what happens with this whole equation. Okay, so a low Q factor, you could have, if you're not good at executing, if you're not good at something, but you've got a great idea, then he's saying you're going to have a mediocre result. Meanwhile, if you're highly talented, you've got a high Q factor, but the idea or the product or whatever you're going after is a low value, you're going to have a mediocre result. So this is Barabasi's idea. I feel it's incomplete. I feel it's not, there are too many factors. Forget about just, Q factor in this case. I feel like there are too many elements that would go into an equation that would make a difference that can compensate for either a lower value product or a low initial Q factor, right? How do I overcome this? Because not all of us have that innate talent to begin with. Right? And I refuse to believe that simply because I was born or have an innate talent, or that talent is there, that I'm forever locked into whether or not I'm going to have a positive or a mediocre result. I've seen way too many examples of people that have overcome that talent initially and achieved something great. So this is the first one. It's a real simple one. Obviously he's got a whole book, so he may get a little bit more. I'll be honest. I looked at, highlights, a number of different articles and summaries of the book. So he may get a little more in depth. I may not be giving him all the credit that he deserves with the idea and the study. So do your own research on this particular equation. Okay. That good for everybody? All right, real quick. This is supposed to go, not there, it's supposed to go here. Okay, next one. This is another equation for success. All right. So success equals the right thoughts turned into ideas, and then a positive assessment of that idea, add it into goals, take it to action, positive attitude, positive assessment of that action, repeated daily with reflection and perseverance. So what are we talking about here? Beginning with thoughts. Every action that we take, every habit that we have begins at thought, right? That's a simple beginning. Everything begins in our brains, in our hearts, and in our spirits. From there, you turn it into an idea. Oftentimes, when we start to think of ideas, instead of having a positive assessment, we kill it with a negative assessment. We shut it down. We start thinking about why things aren't going to work. We do that way too often. Well, it's too early. It's too big. There's this, there's that, all of these different things, right? Walking into an idea with a positive assessment, and this isn't blind optimism either, right? If it's a stupid idea, it's a stupid idea. It doesn't matter how much positivity you shine on it, right? It's got to be an idea that has merit. Then we give it positive assessment. From there, we create goals, because an idea that doesn't have a goal, which is essentially a plan so that we can put in place the action, nothing comes about. And then during the course of that action, that is repeated daily, and you reflect on it, during the course of that action, having a positive attitude towards it, and then leading through perseverance, getting there, et cetera, right? Questions on this? Anybody have questions on this one? Thoughts, ideas, positive assessment of the ideas, put it down into goals. The goals lead to action. Make sure your action are aligned with your goals. You repeat it daily, you reflect on it, you persevere until you achieve. This is someone else's definition or equation for success. And there's a lot of different ones out there. If you guys want to, I'm going to give you mine here in a second, and I'm going to break it down. Go on to Google, look up the equation for success. There's a lot of different examples. Some of them are super simple, right? Because really they're looking for that, those three elements. Like, let me give you 3 bullet points, the 3 keys to, like, people are just looking for a headline versus, in my mind, when I was looking at it, it looked like they were just looking for talking points, headlines, keyword optimization, instead of something that could be substantive. Where would desire fit? In here, I agree. It looks like it's missing, right? Maybe thoughts, maybe that's where they meant it. Because if I'm not going to if I don't have at least some element of desire, then I'm not going to go into the ideas and goals, right? In the ideas and actions. Yeah, it could be the ideas in between ideas and actions. I've got a goal and I've got to have the desire to achieve it. So then now I'm going to put it into an action. So this is why I kind of feel like there's a bit more to it, and why I've set down and my equation for success. So let me kind of explain this. And it starts with clarity. And all the time when I talk to you guys, I push this idea of clarity. You've got to know what you want, right? So Richard asking, who provides the positive assessment of the idea? Is it neutral, qualified? Positive assessment is positive feelings. And what this person was talking about, they're talking about positive feelings. Who decides if the idea is a good one? without getting into like the market is going to decide, or I've got a mentor that's going to evaluate it for me. Like, and that's why I say so many of these equations are limited. They're missing so many things, right? I could feel great about an idea and think that it's a good idea, but if, and this is where if we combine the formula, the S equals Q times R, right? Where there's the Q factor, the quality, this talent that I've got and the quality of the idea. And I add that into the second equation. Now I start to balance out a little bit, because now I'm talking about the ability to actually achieve something, not just taking action, but taking action that's going to achieve a result. Because let's be real, just because you're doing something doesn't mean you're going to get a result out of it, right? I could have the innate desire. I could really want to. I could feel positive about it, but all the positive feelings in the world aren't going to get me what I want. And I've used this example before, but look, I'm a 6'1" white guy that's 41 years old. And I'm not going to be a dunk champion. I'm not playing in the NBA. It's not happening. Doesn't matter how much I desire it or how much I positively feel about it. And I'm going to take action and work and I'm going to set some goals, and I'm going to daily work on my calf strength and my quickness and agility. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot 1,000 times a day. Okay, that's great. But time has passed, right? The window that would have allowed me to do something like that, right? There's, can you at least touch the net? Byron, I used to be able to dunk. I can still get close to the rim. If I went out and I started jumping a bit more, I wouldn't be too far off. I'm not, I'm not totally inept at this point. But just shot down your dream. Thanks a lot. Sorry, Tom. You're probably in the same boat that I am, brother. But there's many other things that we can accomplish. So when looking at this whole idea of success, right? I used to always get this, it is curious for all the major success I had in research and medicine. I already do. They would be successful. I just knew it. Well, and so I'm going to talk about, because I think, Michael, a lot of what you're talking about fits into kind of how I have my next equation written out. This came about, it was about 2.5 years ago. I was doing a training in Anaheim. I was at a seminar. I was hosting the seminar during that weekend, and we were talking about e-commerce and marketing and things, but there was elements of mindset and everything else, because, hey, this is me. And so we had about 100 people in the room, and we were doing this training, and I had a couple people come up and say, what are some of the keys to success? And I sat down and I started writing. And it was one of those moments. How many of you guys have gotten into that state of flow or that zone where you're writing or you're thinking, and there are elements of just inspiration and clarity that come to you because you put yourself so often down writing things out, where boom, here you go. And finally, it just, things start to click. And that was one of those moments for me. And I was sitting down, and we were going to have, I typically, if I'm doing an event, I'll leave 1 or 2 windows of time that I can speak to that particular audience. Instead of totally preparing out something, I like coming into it and saying, hey, what topic does this group need? And I had a couple people come up and say, what, I've been doing this, or I've tried this before, and I can't figure out, what's in my way for success. And sometimes you just need it laid out a different way, right? And so I hope, as I share this equation with you guys, that you gain a little bit of insight for yourselves, okay? So I'm going to break these out. Number one, though, with everything, is you've got to be clear on your definition of success. This equation can be used for immediate impacted success, something that I'm trying to do in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, the next 12 months. It could be lifelong, right? Because I can pull out however I define success, and I can replace it with something else. Now, it's going to change what the other pieces of the equation, but I can say, okay, on this project, this is what success looks like. So what needs to happen on this side? So look at the overall equation. But again, it starts with clarity. You've got to know. It's got to be clear. Now, this is my equation, and I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to give you these slides so you don't necessarily have to write everything out. But on the top, I have time, effort, expertise, investment, passion or desire, in this case, Carolyn, and focus, minus. So these are, I'm adding these things up, then I'm going to subtract resistance, either exterior resistance or interior resistance, and I'm going to extract this, and I'm going to take out distractions. Okay, so the time, effort, expertise. Now, I'm going to break those down here in just a second. And then the next piece of this comes in. This part here that's underlined, you have opportunity, timing, the vehicle, the quality, and the team around you. Okay, the team, like, so these things, and then it equals success, whatever your definition, your goal is at that moment, according to this. Okay, time, effort, expertise, investment, passion, and focus, minus resistance and distractions, multiplied by the opportunity and everything else. So here's something important to remember on this. Time, effort, expertise, investment, passion, and focus, minus resistance and distractions. All of these are the variables. These are the things that we have control over. The amount that I have of one, either large or small, will affect the amount that I need of the others. The amount that I have of one, either large or small, will affect the amount that is required of the others to equal out where I need to be for success. And guys, this is where, if you've got thoughts, if you've got questions, now's the time to ask. So, Forrest, would excuses be a form of distractions? Absolutely. It could also be a form of resistance, right? So the distractions typically lead to the resistance. Excuses would probably fit better under resistance, because this is either outside resistance or personal. So this would be a good example of personal resistance. This is, I would have called that customer back, but I already knew what their answer was going to be. I would have called them back, but I figured this was probably going to happen. I would have, worked on my funnel. I would have prepared more content, but I didn't have time, but I was tired. Those are examples of resistance. Oftentimes the resistance plays hand in hand, and that's why they're added right there. They're in that parentheses, the distractions. We have the resistance, so oftentimes we will create our own distractions, right? Now, time, effort, expertise, investment, passion, focus. Number one, time. Time is kind of twofold here. Time is the time that I am willing to put into it, or the time that is necessary to complete whatever the project is. Now, some of you guys say, well, I don't have time. Okay. So if you don't have time, then I need to raise my level of expertise, or I have to be willing to invest more, or I've got to make sure that that limited amount of time that I have, my focus is higher, right? All of those things. Or for example, at the beginning, as you're starting your marketing, the amount of time that it requires to write a good headline or create good content or something like that will change after a while as your level of expertise increases, right? Investment, like creating content. One of the things I've used as an example, I have an assistant that's helping me with content. I don't have the time to put into that particular portion of the overall project, so I'm investing funds to help balance that out, right? Maybe you don't have the time there. The expertise. If my expertise is low, then I need to increase it, or I need to borrow someone else's expertise, right? Doesn't mean that it has to be my expertise. It means that I need expertise to fill in this equation. The investment, it doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be my cash. It could be OPM, other people's money, right? Passion, though, is one of those variables that you need if you're going to see this through, and your ability to focus, because that's what overcomes the resistance and distractions. Questions here about any of these variables?
I didn't have a question, Andrew, but I just wanted a statement as far as, this equation I appreciate, because it's positive. It's funny because, when I look at this, you see so much in business, and that correlates to business and sports. It's a huge, especially professional sports. You see ones who maybe have the expertise, but don't, for whatever reason, don't ever make it because they lack in some of these other, maybe the passion or the focus or the effort. Same thing in business. And it's encouraging to know that, okay, I may not be the most talented, but if I go work my tail off, I'm going to be successful. Or there's plenty of reasons why people who don't have a whole bunch of time start a business on the side and become successful. They don't have a whole bunch of time, but they have that passion and that focus to do whatever they can.
And then they find the other elements that'll fit into there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
Andrew.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I have one thing. I like your equation a lot because it has sufficient variables to be useful. As we mentioned the first time, okay? But there's one thing I found with people in general is that, you can have an idea and you can work hard to get it and you have all the skills to get it, okay?
Right.
But with people, and they go out and try to feel like, well, how am I feel? Well, you don't know how you're actually going to feel when you get there, like with the and stuff. You just make it all up, okay?
Right.
And I've seen too many people that are very qualified, very skillful, get to a place, which society would say successful, and they end up being miserable.
And I agree.
So you have to put that in your equation somehow, looking ahead just to make sure that's what you really, really want.
No. So you're stepping into, Michael, you may not have seen, I've done this training before, and at some point I'm going to end up redoing it again. But this is where we get into our ideal versus our actual, right? And we have our actual 1 and our actual 2. And this is, looking at it's that journey where you get to the end of the, I'm going to go out, I'm going to run a marathon. You get done with the marathon that you've been training for 6 months and you go, nothing's actually changed, right? You can achieve success that other people tell you, and you can absolutely be miserable doing it, or it depends on how you're measuring that success, right? So that's absolutely part of the training, but almost a separate piece in and of itself, right? How you feel about the success becomes much more of an inner conflict or an inner resolution than what achieving the success would be, right?
Again,
is that a fair assessment?
It's a very fair assessment.
Okay, I totally agree with what you're saying. And there are all sorts of examples of that, and I've done a training on it, and I'd be happy to do one again and talk to you guys about it. And some of you guys I know have heard it. It comes from Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach. I got permission from Dan to use that training on occasion, as long as I make sure that I give him credit for it, because he was the one that came up with it, but it absolutely plays into there. So for the purpose of this training, you define what you think success is in whatever moment. And one reason, why I have all of these variables in here is because it allows you to change this out for a short-term task. And what does success look like for that task? You can use the same thing for health. You can use it for financial success. You can use it for just about any situation. You can use it for your relationship, right? And we're talking about investment. That's why I didn't put capital there. I said investment, because there's different ways that we invest in a relationship. Are you investing in intimacy? Are you opening up your heart and allowing the whole piece, of your brain to connect to, right? Am I investing enough of myself, right? So you can use the equation for just about anybody or any situation, right? But there are all of these here. So it still circles back to clarity on what you want to know and how you define success. Absolutely. You need to contemplate the complexity and applicability to your situation, theoretical to applied for results. Yeah, this is why, sit down and work this out. And sometimes you're able to sit down and go, okay, first, you got to be able to define success. And this is why I talk to you guys about goals. If you can't figure out what success is, then none of the rest of the equation matters, right? If I don't know where the hell I'm going, then how much time and effort, investment and passion and focus and everything else, and I promise you then the resistance and the distractions are going to skyrocket because you haven't figured out anything else. It's going to overwhelm that equation because you haven't defined clearly what some of these elements are. Now, I'm going to share a couple of other things. I want to talk about why all of this other stuff is important. These are the variables. These are things that you have control over at any given time. And if you're willing to put in more time, right? Like, let's say we're building a business, and occasionally I get the comment, well, I've got a ton of time, but I'm not putting any more money into this. Great. Well, then the time that I've got to put in and the time until I get a result is going to grow accordingly. And the amount of effort that I'm going to put in is going to grow accordingly. And then I still need expertise. You can't change the fact that you still need to be good at it. And so in that case, if you're not going to invest more money, then I need to increase the level of expertise, meaning I've got to learn it, which also then affects the time. And if I allow myself to get distracted, or I go lower on the passion, because if the passion wavers, the desire wavers, then the distractions are going to go up. It's going to screw up the other elements, right? Does everybody see how that works? Because occasionally people say, look, I've got the money. I'll throw the money at it. Great. Well, then we're going to be able to shorten the time. We're going to be able to shorten the amount of effort that you've got. The expertise still has to be there. So it's either got to be you or someone else. But at some point, the passion and focus still has to be there for you, because unless you hand over everything. But if that's what you're doing, then some other elements of this come into play. Now, across the bottom here, these are things that play into it. Opportunity, timing, the vehicle that you're using, quality, and the team that you've got around you. So the quality here is kind of the quality of that idea, right? Is it a valid idea? Opportunity goes to, I've got to have the opportunity presented to me, or I've got to be, introduced to the opportunity to step into whatever it is I'm doing. I've got an opportunity now to lose some weight. And I happen to have a gym nearby, and I've got this and I've got this. So the opportunity surrounds me. I've got to grab a hold of the opportunity. Timing there's a couple of different levels of timing. Timing can be timing in our lives. Sometimes you may have an opportunity for a relationship with the most amazing person in the world, but the timing in your life is either off because you're getting ready to move or something's happening. And if that's the case, then you need to change, you've got to change something to make that opportunity viable. Same thing with business, right? Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm too busy for this right now at this moment. Well, then that goes to what I don't know if it was David or Andrew, somebody said there a second ago, you make time for the things that you value as important. You can create opportunities, Carlton, to some extent. Some people are creators naturally. I have found that I am much better at taking an opportunity and maximizing the results as opposed to creating from scratch. That's one of my talents. I'm able to break things down and put it into pieces and try to find a way to maximize what can happen there, as opposed to sitting down and being, the genesis of an idea, right? Some people are great at being that piece of it. Others aren't. Timing can also be timing in the world. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, those guys, and the timing that they were given in society in general, and where humanity was and where they happened to be born. And so parts of those opportunities, it's not just the opportunity that I'm taking. Part of it may be, you look at, places in Africa or throughout parts of Asia, or even within the US, where certain people aren't given as much opportunity, right? Or how many people do we have that are raised in an area that still don't have access to the internet, right? The opportunities simply aren't the same. Now, all of that can be overcome if we're willing, if the right things are put in place, or people are just overcome it due to kind of what Byron was talking about, the level of passion and focus and drive. Just about anything can be overcome with an overwhelming response from one of these other categories. Carlton, that's a big part of it. Seeing opportunities, too often we don't see them, or we don't pay attention until it's too late, right? So timing next.
Is there any way to get better at that?
At seeing opportunities?
Yeah, you just got to continuously. Is it better to just try and create more opportunities so that you understand when you're seeing them?
So one of the biggest ways to understand opportunities when you see them is study, reading, right? I mean, Warren Buffett's a great example. Why is he able to see when different businesses, when the opportunities are there? Because he spends 4 to 6 hours every single day reading. And he's reading about success, and he's reading about self-help and management, and he's reading about, reports from Ford Motor from the 50s when they were profitable. So when he looks at something, he's able to evaluate it like this. It's why some people, when they come up with a niche and they go, this is going to be awesome, they're looking at it with a shortness, of data. The more that you consume information, the easier it will be to recognize opportunity, but it absolutely plays into what kind of information that you are consuming. If we're consuming information that's incorrect, or we're listening to certain elements, whether it's a news source, it's a friend, our network around us, those kinds of things can give us false information. And so we're never going to see opportunities because there's too much negativity there. On the other side, we don't want to be on the extremes. We want to be filled with information. You start to, Andrew saying, fine tune and define your intuition based on the level of knowledge that we gain, and looking for opportunities and then evaluating. So I'm going to evaluate, but I'm going to evaluate with an open mind. I'm going to look at actual numbers and not just, emotions. Too often people evaluate opportunities based on either fear or a high level of excitement. And where you need to be is somewhere in the middle, right? I think if you guys have noticed, I've spent a lot of time talking about dreams and what's possible, but also the reality. You got to blend the two worlds, because that's the world that we're in. You can't live in fear, but you can't live with blinders on either, right? The possibilities that are there are much bigger than any of you at this point probably comprehend, right? It's huge, but you can't go blindly into any situation. You got to look at it. Forrest, this is where you got to decide on those distractions. So, Tom, I absolutely agree that it's phenomenal time for internet marketing. That's the whole reason I'm here. Absolutely. I spend all of my time doing and thinking about different ways to not just market online, but to, what sections of the economy, what sections of society am I going to be able to benefit in a way that will benefit me, but that I can generate revenue, because I've got a family. I need to do that. Right. So let's see, a couple other things I want to kind of highlight here, and then we'll get you these slides in a little bit so you guys can look at them. So opportunity, timing, the vehicle is important. If you got, this goes to kind of the R from this equation, right? The potential value of a given idea. So let's call this the potential value of the vehicle that I'm in. So if I've got something and all the opportunity and timing and everything is there, but the vehicle that I've got sucks, like I can't deliver it to the audience, it doesn't matter. All the rest of it doesn't matter. If I can't get it in front of who I need to get it in front of, or if I can't do what I need to do, then it's not going to matter. If I decide I'm going to do all of these things, I'm going to get in shape, and part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to be riding a bike, and yes, it happens to be a vehicle, but it's a crappy bike, a lot of the other stuff isn't going to matter, right? If I'm going to decide that all of this is, and my diet's going to be part of it, but I don't change, but the quality of food is horrible, then the macros aren't going to matter, right? Next goes to quality. So quality plays into, expertise and all of these things. So that's part of it. And then the team. Now, your team can be you, because some of you guys are do-it-yourselfers. Some of you guys refuse any help from anywhere else. It's absolutely bonkers, but that's the reality, right? We look at other people. The team can be one individual. You may have a certain situation where this equation for success for you requires it be just you, and that's okay. Many things, though, you're going to want a team. And the quality and the value of that team, their expertise or their time or everything else will play into it, right? If I'm short on expertise or I'm short on investment, well, my team can make up that difference. If I need that help staying focused or driving my passion or helping eliminate distractions, the team can help overcome that. All of those things can be essential for success, right? All those years I've been told, when are you ever going to use algebra in life? Right. Yeah, Carolyn, a great mastermind group can absolutely be part of that team. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that day in Anaheim sitting down, this is the equation that I came up with for success. I don't pull it out often enough for myself, but when I'm looking at a big project, this is what I sit down and do. I go, how much time am I willing to put into it? And if my time allotment is going to be low, then I look at making sure that my focus is high, my passion is still there, because those are two things that I have 100% control over. I look at where I'm going to need to invest if my time isn't going to be available. If I'm willing to put in more time, then I can lower the amount that's going out. I always look at the team that I can bring in around me. Always. I never try to tackle anything alone, but I have learned to evaluate that team closely, because I've had too many partnerships that just bit me in the ass, because I have a lot of love and faith and hope in humanity. And unfortunately, people don't always live up to it. So I'm very selective now in who I work with, but I always look for a team. I make sure that the vehicle is one that I'm going to be able to use and use consistently and use for a while. And then I just go out after it, right? Whatever that opportunity is. So guys, this is my equation and I will share it with you. What do you guys think? Will it work? You think you guys might get a little bit benefit out of it? And then we can talk about, that what Michael brought up earlier with success and how we feel once we achieve it, because that is important. It is something we need to pay attention to. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, define success for yourselves. Sit down and think about the equation for you. Send me some questions, anything that you've got about this equation. I'd be happy to talk about it more. But yeah, go out, rise from the ashes, fly like the phoenixes that you are. On that note, does anybody have any questions about what I had up there, about any of these elements, any comments, questions that you'd like to share?
I would like to ask, I just made a comment to you just a moment ago. I believe we keep your vehicle going as far as incentive, just simply based on the fact that people help other people, and
absolutely.
You've been incredible on getting my vehicle moving simply based upon your stories alone. So thank you very much, Andrew.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Excellent. All right. I will send the slides, guys. You'll get them. Any other questions, comments? Appreciate you, Forrest. Thank you for that. Seriously,
hey, Andrew, I got one comment to make.
Yeah, Sherman.
I totally agree with all your equation, but the only thing that I look at when I think about success is sometimes we don't use the vehicle with wisdom from some of the failures we have to get to success. Sometimes we think success is just one thing, and it's what you said, all that stuff that you added, all those variables. But sometimes we fail to understand that success is our failures also.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, so that goes to how you view success, right? What you define success as. So wisdom could fit in there. Absolutely. What I do is I look at it and I go, anytime I'm setting up goals, I stop and I go, okay, if I'm writing something out, as I'm looking at the effort or the investment, I'm just naturally thinking about what I've done in the past, and I apply it. I go, no, that didn't work before. Here's why. And then you modify other pieces, right? So a lot of times for me, I was just talking about the team that I brought on, not who I should have with me. So you evaluate, right? I've got someone, I'm trying to give help, again, a guy I love dearly. And this is, so, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but, and